My name is Harper Bell. I'm 31 years old. And last month, at my little sister's engagement dinner, my own mother told the staff to send me through the tradesman's gate. Not the front entrance. Not the marble lobby where everyone else walked in under chandeliers and fresh roses. The tradesman's gate. The one beside the laundry carts, the broken crates, and the bins behind the kitchen. I stood there in a dark green dress I had ironed twice that afternoon, holding a small gift wrapped in cream paper and ribbon. Inside was a handmade silver photo frame from a local artist in Briar Glen, the town my family had spent years mocking. The doorman looked embarrassed. He wasn't cruel. That almost made it worse. He checked the clipboard, then checked my face, then lowered his voice like he wished he could disappear into the stone wall behind him. Mrs. Bell, I'm sorry. I have instructions that you're to enter through the service gate. I laughed at first. A tiny laugh. Not because it was funny, but because my mind couldn't find another way to react. My sister is hosting the dinner, I said. I'm Harper. Harper Whitmore Bell. He looked down again. I understand, ma'am. But the note says family discretion requested. Family discretion. That was the phrase my mother chose. Through the tall glass doors behind him, I could see my parents. My father, Arthur Whitmore, stood with one hand in his jacket pocket, smiling like every room belonged to him. My mother, Grace, was beside him in a pale champagne dress, her pearls resting against her throat like a crown. She saw me. I know she saw me. Our eyes met through the glass. For 1 second, maybe 2, her face tightened. Then she turned away. Not quickly. Not accidentally. She turned away like I was a stain on the window. That was the moment something inside me finally stopped begging to be loved properly. But here is what my family didn't know. The manor where they were raising glasses, taking photos, and pretending I was an embarrassment. It was built on Bell land. My husband's land. And by midnight, my sister's perfect engagement dinner was over. Not because I screamed. Not because I caused a scene. I didn't even make it inside. Before I tell you how everything fell apart, let me take you back 6 years, to the day my parents decided I had ruined my life. Back then, I was still Harper Whitmore. I lived in Manchester, worked in corporate events, wore tight pencil skirts, answered emails at midnight, and measured my value by how pleased other people sounded on the phone. My parents loved that version of me. Or at least, they loved being able to describe that version of me. Our Harper works with luxury clients. Our Harper knows people in London. Our Harper is going places. They said it like I was a car they had purchased and polished. My younger sister, Brianna, had always been the golden one, but I still had a place in the family story then. I was the useful daughter. The polished daughter. The one they could mention at dinner parties. Then I met Caleb Bell. It happened at a countryside wedding in Yorkshire. I had been hired to coordinate the reception at Renfield Manor, an old estate surrounded by orchards and rolling fields. It rained that morning, the sort of steady English rain that makes everything smell green and ancient. The florist was late. The baker delivered the wrong cake. The groom's aunt fainted before noon. By 3 o'clock, I was standing behind the marquee with a clipboard, trying not to cry into a tray of champagne flutes. That was when Caleb appeared. He was carrying a crate of apples on one shoulder, like it weighed nothing. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark blonde hair damp from the rain, mud on his boots, sleeves rolled to his elbows. "You look like you're about to set fire to that clipboard," he said. I snapped. "Unless you're here with the missing flowers, now is not the time." He smiled. Not smugly. Not mockingly. Just calmly. "I'm not the flowers," he said. "But I know where they are." He did. The florist's van had broken down 2 miles away, and Caleb had passed it on the lane. He went back with his truck, loaded the flowers, and delivered them himself. He saved the wedding. I told him that later, when the guests were dancing and the crisis had turned into a funny little story everyone would tell for years. He shook his head and said, "No, you saved it. I just drove the van." That was Caleb. He never needed to stand in the center of the room. He simply became the reason the room didn't fall apart. We started talking, then calling. Then I began finding excuses to visit Briar Glen, the small market town where his family ran Bell Orchard and Dairy. My parents hated it before they even met him. "A farmer?" my mother said, as though I had announced I was joining a circus. "An orchard owner," I corrected. My father folded his newspaper. Same dirt, different label. I should have defended Caleb more fiercely then. I know that now. But when you grow up being trained to soften every truth so your family won't punish you with silence, your courage comes in pieces. Mine came slowly. 3 months later, I left my job in Manchester. 6 months after that, I married Caleb in a stone church at the edge of Briar Glen. The reception was in the orchard beneath strings of warm lights. Caleb's mother, Margaret, made the wedding cake herself. His father, Graham, gave a speech that lasted only 2 minutes but made half the guests cry. My parents did not come. Their excuse was a charity luncheon. A charity luncheon. On my wedding day, Brianna came for exactly 45 minutes, took no photos, kissed the air beside my cheek, and said, "It's very rustic, Harper. Very you now." Then she left before dinner. I remember watching her heels sink slightly into the grass as she walked away. I remember thinking, even then, that she looked more embarrassed by the mud than by what she was doing. After the wedding, my parents became experts at absence. They forgot my birthday twice. They never visited the orchard. When I sent my mother a photo of Caleb and me standing beside our first cider press, she replied, "Looks quaint, quaint." That was her word for everything she wanted to dismiss without openly insulting. Our house was quaint. Our town was quaint. Our life was quaint. Meanwhile, Brianna's life was impressive. She moved to London. She became a junior brand consultant. She started dating Oliver Pierce, a solicitor from a wealthy family in Surrey. Suddenly, my parents remembered how to be proud. They posted photos from rooftop restaurants, gallery openings, charity auctions. Brianna and Oliver at the theater. Brianna and Oliver in Paris. Brianna and Oliver at my parents' anniversary dinner, smiling beside a cake I hadn't been invited to help choose. My mother's captions always sounded the same. "So proud of our beautiful girl, our clever Brianna, our shining star." I looked through her page one evening while Caleb was repairing a fence outside. 3 years of posts. Not one photo of me. Not one. I closed the app and stared at the kitchen table until Caleb came in, saw my face, and quietly put the kettle on. He never asked me to stop caring. That was one of the reasons I loved him. He knew you could be happy in the life you chose and still grieve the people who refused to see it. The invitation to Brianna's engagement dinner came by email. Not a phone call. Not a message from my sister. A formal email. Cream background. Gold lettering. A venue called Halewick Manor. Champagne reception at 7. Dinner at 8. At the bottom, in smaller type, it said, "Hosted by Arthur and Grace Whitmore." I stared at it for a long time. Caleb read it over my shoulder. "Do you want to go?" he asked. "No," I said immediately. Then, quieter, "Yes." He waited. I hated that I still wanted to be included. I hated that a part of me still remembered Brianna at 10 years old, sneaking into my room because she'd had a nightmare. Brianna at 13, begging me to curl her hair before a school dance. Brianna before she learned that my humiliation could be used as currency. "I'll go alone," I said. Caleb frowned. "Harper, I mean it. If they're awful, I don't want you sitting there while they make little jokes about mud and tractors." His jaw tightened. "I can handle jokes. I know you can. But I don't want you to have to." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Call me the second you want to leave. I will. And Harper, yes, if they make you feel small, come home. Don't stay to prove you can take it." That sentence stayed with me. Don't stay to prove you can take it. I bought the green dress 2 days later. Nothing too bright. Nothing too expensive. Nothing that looked like I was trying too hard. I chose the silver frame because I thought Brianna might like it. It had tiny pressed wildflowers sealed beneath the glass, pale blue and white, delicate but strong. On the card, I wrote, "For the life you're building. I hope it's kind to you." Looking back, that line hurts. Because I meant it. I truly meant it. The evening of the dinner, I drove to Halewick Manor alone. The sky was soft and pink over the hills. The manor looked beautiful from the road, all honey-colored stone and ivy, with lights glowing in every window. I had been there once before with Caleb, years earlier, to deliver crates of apples to the kitchen. I remembered the chef laughing with Caleb at the loading bay. I remembered thinking the place looked like something from a film. I parked near the front, checked my lipstick in the mirror, and sat for a moment with both hands on the steering wheel. "Just dinner," I whispered to myself. Then I got out. The doorman stopped me before I touched the brass handle. He asked for my name. I gave it. He checked the list. His face changed. That tiny shift from professional to uncomfortable. My stomach dropped before he even spoke. "I'm very sorry, Mrs. Bell," he said. "I've been asked to direct you to the tradesman's gate." At first, I thought I had misheard him. "The what?" "The side entrance, ma'am. Around the east wall." "Why?" He swallowed. "The instruction says family discretion requested." Behind him, laughter spilled through the glass. A woman in a silver dress passed by holding champagne. A waiter carried a tray of canapés. A photographer lifted his camera. Then I saw my mother. She saw me too. Her mouth tightened. For one breath, she looked almost afraid. Then she turned her back. I cannot explain what that felt like. It wasn't just anger. It was colder than anger. It was the feeling of every childhood hope finally understanding it had been foolish. I looked at the doorman. He looked miserable. "You're only doing your job," I said. His eyes softened. "I'm sorry, so am I." I walked back to my car. I did not go around the east wall. I did not pass the bins. I did not enter my sister's engagement dinner like a shameful secret. I sat in the driver's seat and placed the wrapped gift on the passenger side. My hands were perfectly still. That frightened me more than shaking would have. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Lila Bennett, an old school friend who still followed half my family online. "Harper, please tell me this isn't true." Then came a screenshot. An email. Sent by Brianna that afternoon to selected guests. Subject: a delicate note about tonight. I read it under the dim light of my car. "Dear everyone, just a quick note before this evening. My sister Harper may attempt to attend, though we have decided it would be best if she kept some distance due to recent emotional instability and difficult behavior. Please do not encourage any uncomfortable scenes. We appreciate your discretion. Brianna X." I read it once. Twice. Then a third time. Emotional instability. Difficult behavior. Uncomfortable scenes. She hadn't just excluded me. She had built an explanation around my absence. She had made me the problem before I ever arrived. I called Caleb. He answered on the first ring. "Harper?" I tried to speak. Nothing came out. His voice changed. "What happened?" I read him the email. Then I told him about the tradesman's gate. When I finished, there was silence. Not empty silence. The dangerous kind. Then Caleb said, "Where are you?" "In the car park." "Come home." "I'm fine." "No, you're not." "Come home." I closed my eyes. Then I heard another voice in the background. Graham Bell, Caleb's father. "What's happened?" Caleb must have put me on speaker, because Graham's voice came closer. "Harper, love, tell me exactly what they did," I told him. Every detail. The clipboard. The note. The gate. My mother turning away. The email. Graham did not interrupt once. When I finished, he said, very calmly, "Drive home carefully. I'm going to speak to Margaret, then I'm going to call Mr. Ashford." I frowned. "Who is Mr. Ashford?" "The man who operates Halewick Manor." "Operates?" There was a pause. Then Graham said, "Harper, that manor sits on Bell Land." I stared through the windshield at the glowing windows. What? It was part of the old East Orchard. My grandfather leased it to the Ashford Group before Caleb was born. They own the business. We own the ground. My mouth went dry. "And there's something else," Graham continued. "Their restaurant, their cider list, their whole countryside brand, that comes from us. Bell Orchard. Bell Dairy. Bell Cider." I looked at the manor again. At the stone walls. At the lights. At the cars lined up like silver beetles. My family was inside laughing at the farmer's wife. On land owned by the farmer. "Come home," Graham said again. "You've done enough for one night," so I did. I drove through the dark lanes back to Briar Glen. By the time I arrived, Margaret had tea waiting, and Caleb was standing in the doorway like he had been carved from worry. The moment I stepped out of the car, he crossed the gravel and pulled me into his arms. That was when I cried. Not at the manor. Not in the car park. At home. Where I was safe enough to fall apart. Graham sat at the kitchen table with a leather folder open in front of him. Margaret stood beside the stove, lips pressed thin, one hand wrapped around a mug she hadn't touched. I had never seen Margaret angry before. She was usually all warmth. Fresh bread. Soft cardigans. Gentle humor. That night, she looked like winter. "No one sends my daughter-in-law through a tradesman's gate," she said. My throat tightened. Daughter-in-law. Not embarrassment. Not problem. Not difficult. Daughter-in-law. Graham made the call at 9:20. He spoke to Edward Ashford, the managing director of Halewick Manor. His voice never rose. That was the thing about Graham Bell. When he was truly angry, he became almost polite. Edward, he said, I've just learned that my daughter-in-law was denied the main entrance to your establishment this evening under written instruction from the Whitmore family. A pause. Yes. Harper Bell. Another pause. Yes. My son's wife. Then Graham's eyes moved to me. She was directed to the tradesman's gate. Whatever Edward said next made Graham's mouth harden. No, Edward, this is not a guest list misunderstanding. I have the email. I have the instruction. And I am looking at the lease agreement now. He turned a page. Clause 17. Conduct and reputational harm. Any event held on Bell property must not engage in discriminatory, defamatory, or reputationally damaging treatment toward the Bell family, their employees, or their invited relations. He listened. Then said, I'm not asking you to refund the Whitmores. I'm instructing you to end the event. My breath caught. Caleb's hand found mine beneath the table. Graham continued. You have 30 minutes to clear the private dining wing. We'll discuss the supply agreement tomorrow morning. Then he hung up. I stared at him. I didn't want this, I whispered. Graham closed the folder. I know. I didn't want to ruin her dinner. Margaret came around the table and took my face gently in both hands. Darling, they ruined it when they decided your dignity was less important than their image. Inside Halewick Manor, I later learned, Brianna had just stood to make her toast. She was wearing white silk. Of course she was. Oliver sat beside her, smiling politely. My parents were at the center table, glowing with pride. Brianna tapped her glass and said, I just want to thank the people who have always supported me. The people who understand what family really means. That line traveled back to me through 3 different guests. The people who understand what family really means. A minute later, phones began lighting up. Lila had posted the screenshot. She didn't write much. Just this. If you received this email about Harper Bell tonight, ask yourself why a happy family needs to lie before dinner even starts. By the time dessert was supposed to be served, half the room had seen it. Guests whispered. Someone showed Oliver. Someone else showed Mrs. Dawes, my mother's oldest friend from church. Mrs. Dawes apparently walked straight to my mother and asked, Grace, did you really make Harper use the staff entrance? My mother said, Of course not. Then Edward Ashford entered the dining room. People later described him as calm but pale. He went first to my father. Mr. Whitmore, may I speak with you privately? My father waved a hand. We're in the middle of a family celebration. Edward lowered his voice. I'm afraid the celebration has concluded, Brianna heard him. What does that mean? Edward looked at her. It means the private dining wing is being closed for the evening. My father stood. We paid for this event. Yes, Edward said. And the event has violated the terms under which this property is operated, Brianna laughed. A sharp, nervous laugh. What terms? It's a dinner. Edward's face tightened. You submitted a written instruction directing Mrs. Harper Bell to enter through the tradesman's gate. So? Brianna snapped. She's my sister. Oliver slowly turned toward her. That was the moment, apparently, when his expression changed. Edward said, Mrs. Bell is a member of the Bell family. This manor stands on Bell land. Silence. Not polite silence. Not awkward silence. The kind of silence that makes people remember every cruel thing they've said at dinner. My father's face went red. My mother's went white. Brianna looked confused first. Then frightened. Oliver stood. You told me Harper didn't want to come. Brianna opened her mouth. Closed it. My mother said quickly. This is being blown out of proportion. Oliver looked at her. Was she sent to the tradesman's gate? No one answered. That was answer enough. Edward gave them 20 minutes. 20 minutes to clear the room. No dessert. No speeches. No engagement slideshow. No carefully staged family photographs. Guests left in clusters, whispering under the portico. Some avoided my parents' eyes. Some looked directly at them. Mrs. Dawes, I was told, stopped beside my mother and said, Grace, I remember when Harper used to carry Brianna's school bag because it was too heavy. You should be ashamed. Then she walked out. At home, I did not know any of this yet. I sat at the Bell kitchen table in my green dress, drinking tea I could barely taste. Then my phone rang. Mum. I stared at the screen until Caleb said, "You don't have to answer." I know. But I did. The second I said hello, my mother's voice cut through the line. "What have you done?" I looked at the dark window over the sink. Outside, the orchard trees moved slightly in the wind. "I came home," I said. "Don't you dare play innocent. They're shutting down the dinner. Your father is humiliated." Brianna is in tears. "Good," I said softly. My mother gasped. Then I corrected myself. "No, not good. Honest. There's a difference. You need to call whoever you called and fix this." I didn't call anyone. Then Caleb did. "No. Then who?" "Graham." A pause. "Graham?" "Caleb's father. The farmer you never bothered to meet properly." Silence. I continued. "Halewick Manor is on Bell land. Their kitchen serves Bell produce. Their cider cellar is stocked by Bell Orchard. Their entire countryside image is built around the family you've spent 6 years mocking." My mother said nothing. So I kept going. "You would have known that if you had come to my wedding. Or visited my home. Or asked one real question about the man I married." Her breathing shook. "Harper, listen to me. Brianna cannot have this following her. Oliver's family is there. And you were fine with that email following me? That was different." There it was. That was my childhood in 3 words. That was every forgotten birthday, every insult dressed as concern, every room where I was expected to shrink so Brianna could shine brighter. That was different. "No, Mum," I said. "It wasn't. Harper, I'm done being the daughter you hide when I'm inconvenient and blame when your lies become visible." My voice did not tremble. For once, my voice belonged completely to me. If Brianna wants to fix anything, she can start by sending the truth to every person she lied to. And you and Dad can start by saying my name without shame. Then, I hung up. Caleb wrapped his arms around me from behind. I leaned back into him. For the first time that night, I breathed properly. The fallout came quickly. By morning, Brianna's engagement dinner had become the story everyone in our extended circle was discussing. Not because I posted anything. I didn't. Not because Caleb did. He wouldn't. But people talk when a luxury manor empties a private dinner before dessert. People talk when a screenshot exists. People talk when the family that spent years acting superior is revealed to have humiliated the wrong woman on the wrong land. Oliver left Brianna's flat 2 days later. He didn't end the engagement immediately. He said he needed time to decide whether he trusted the woman he was planning to marry. Brianna called me 17 times that week. I answered none of them. Her messages changed every few hours. At first, she was furious. "You've destroyed everything," then panicked. "Please call Oliver and tell him this was a misunderstanding." Then cruel. "You've always been jealous of me." Then, finally, quiet. "I don't know who I am if everyone stops clapping." That was the only message I saved. Not because it excused her. It didn't. But because it was the first honest thing she had said in years. My father tried to handle things the way men like him handle everything. He drove to Briar Glen wearing a navy blazer and expensive shoes that were entirely wrong for the gravel drive. He arrived without calling. Graham found him at the gate. I watched from the upstairs window. My father extended his hand. Graham did not take it. They stood there beneath the bare branches of the apple trees. I couldn't hear every word, but Caleb was outside near the barn and told me later. My father said, "I think this has gone far enough." Graham replied, "So do I." "Then perhaps we can be reasonable." Graham looked past him toward the house. "Your daughter stood outside a building on my land, while your wife turned away from her. Your younger daughter lied to a room full of people and called Harper unstable before she even arrived. You raised a family that taught one child she was precious and the other she was optional." My father said, "You don't understand our family." Answered, "No, but I understand mine." Then he opened the gate. Not to let my father in. To let him leave. My father stood there for a few seconds. Then he walked back to his car. That evening, my mother sent me a text. "Your father is very upset." I replied, "So was I." She did not answer. For the first time in my life, I did not chase the silence. A week later, Brianna sent the retraction. I know because Lila forwarded it to me. Subject: an apology regarding Harper. The message was short. "Everyone, I need to correct something I said before my engagement dinner. My sister Harper was not emotionally unstable, nor had she behaved in any way that justified exclusion. I made a cruel and dishonest choice because I was embarrassed by my own insecurity and by pressure within our family. Harper deserved better. Brianna. I read it 3 times. Then I placed my phone face down on the table. Caleb asked, "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Sad. Anything else? Relieved. Both were true. Healing, I've learned, does not always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like finally putting down a heavy bag and realizing how long your hands have been hurting. 2 weeks passed before I spoke to Brianna. She called on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I answered. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "I'm sorry." Not dramatic. Not tearful. Just small. "I know that doesn't fix it," she added quickly. "I know it doesn't. I just needed to say it without asking you for anything. That mattered. A little. Not enough to erase what she had done, but enough for me not to hang up." "Why did you do it?" I asked. She breathed out shakily. "Because Mum said you'd make things awkward." I closed my eyes. "And you believed her." "I wanted to. It was easier." There it was again. Honesty. Ugly, but honest. "I spent years telling myself you looked down on us," she said. "On me. On the family. But I think I just hated that you left and seemed happier than I was supposed to let you be." I sat by the kitchen window, watching rain beat on the glass. "I was never trying to beat you, Brianna. I know that now. No. You don't know it yet. But maybe one day you will," she cried then. Quietly. I did not comfort her the way I would have when we were children. That was hard. But necessary. "I'm seeing someone," she said. "A therapist. Oliver asked me to, but I think I need it even if he never comes back." "Good," I said. "I miss you." I looked out toward the orchard. The trees were blurred by rain, their branches dark and patient. "I miss who we were," I said. "I don't know yet if I miss who we are." She accepted that. For once, she didn't argue. A month later, a letter arrived from my father. Actual paper. His handwriting was sharp and slanted, the way it had looked on birthday cards when I was little, back when he still signed them himself. "Harper, I have spent weeks trying to decide whether I am angry because I was wronged or angry because I was exposed. I believe it is the second. I failed you at that door. Before that, I failed you many times in smaller ways I chose not to notice. If you will allow it, your mother and I would like to visit you and Caleb." "Dad." I read the letter at the kitchen table while Caleb made coffee. He did not ask what it said. He waited until I handed it to him. After he read it, he set it down gently. "What do you want?" That question. So simple. So rare. What do you want? Not what will keep peace. Not what will make them happy. Not what will make you look kind. What do you want? "I want them to see my life," I said. "Not as punishment. Not as a tour. Just to see it. Then we'll invite them. With rules." Caleb smiled faintly. "With rules," I wrote back that evening. "Dad, you and Mum can visit on a Saturday. Here are the terms. You will not insult Caleb's work. You will not describe my home as quaint. You will not compare me to Brianna. You will not rewrite what happened at Halewick. And if you introduce me to anyone, you will say, 'My daughter Harper.' Not 'our eldest.' Not 'she married a farmer.' 'My daughter Harper.' If you can do that, come. Harper." His reply came 2 days later. "We can do that." They came in early November. The orchard was half bare, the ground damp with fallen leaves. Caleb wore his work coat. I wore jeans and a jumper, refusing to dress like I had to prove the farm was respectable. My mother arrived with a cake from an expensive bakery, as though sugar could make the afternoon less awkward. My father stepped out of the car and looked around. For once, he said nothing. That was progress. Caleb shook his hand. My father said, "Thank you for having us." It sounded stiff, but sincere. We walked them through the orchard, the cider room, the dairy, the little shop where locals bought cheese, jam, and apple butter. My mother paused in front of a wall of framed photographs. Caleb and me on our wedding day. Margaret holding a basket of pears. Graham laughing beside a tractor. Me at the market, hair windblown, smiling at something outside the frame. My mother touched the edge of that photo. "I've never seen this one," she said. "No," I replied. "You wouldn't have." She flinched. I didn't soften it. Some truths should land. At lunch, my father asked Caleb about grafting apple trees. Not mockingly. Not with that careful, superior tone he used when discussing things he didn't respect. He asked like he actually wanted to know. Caleb explained. My father listened. My mother helped me wash dishes afterward. For 10 minutes, we stood side by side in silence. Then she said, I saw you through the glass. I kept washing a plate. I know. I turned away. Yes. Her hands trembled slightly in the sink water. I don't know why I did that. I looked at her. Yes, you do. Her face crumpled. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just enough. Because I was ashamed, she whispered. Of me? She shook her head. It took her a long time to answer. Of what people would think if they saw how far you'd moved from the life we planned. I dried my hands. Mum, I didn't move down. I moved away. She cried then. I let her. But I did not step forward immediately. That was new for me. Later, before they left, my father stood beside the car and cleared his throat. Your mother and I are having dinner with the Daws next week, he said. They asked after you. I waited. He looked me in the eye. I told them our daughter Harper and her husband run one of the best orchards in the county. For a second, I was 8 years old again, waiting for praise like sunlight. Then I was 31, standing on my own gravel drive, beside the man I loved, in the life I had chosen. And I realized I did not need those words the way I once had. But I was still glad to hear them. Thank you, I said. After they drove away, Caleb and I walked back toward the house. The sky was turning purple over the fields. Smoke rose from Margaret and Graham's chimney next door. Somewhere in the orchard, a bird called once, then went quiet. Caleb took my hand. You all right? I thought about the tradesman's gate. The email. My mother's back through the glass. Brianna's apology. My father's letter. The long, painful road from being hidden to being named. I think so, I said. Not fixed. But all right, he nodded. Fixed is overrated, I laughed. It surprised me. The sound felt light in my chest. That evening, we sat on the back step with mugs of hot cider. The orchard stretched before us, dark and silver under the rising moon. I thought about the girl I had been in Manchester, measuring her worth in praise she had to earn every day. I thought about the woman at Halewick Manor who was told to use the tradesman's gate and chose to go home instead. And I thought about home. Not the place where you were born. Not the house where people keep old photos and sharper memories. Home is the place where your name is safe in someone else's mouth. Home is where no one asks you to shrink at the door. My name is Harper Bell. I married an orchard farmer. My family once thought that made me small. But the life they mocked became the ground beneath their feet. And when they tried to send me through the back gate, I finally understood something. I didn't need to beg for a place at their table. I had already built my own. And at my table, no one I love will ever be asked to enter through the side.